Yep.
Great volume, Sheepdog. Perfect.
Hey, Gandalph, if you
Sugar, sugar. Steam rising. True train rolling through the fog. We don't beg for light, we bring it. Raise your vibe. Find your tribe. I got dust on my boots and gold in my soul. Been walking through shadows, still staying whole. My voice is velvet, my truth is flame. I don't play small, I don't play tame. We rise, we roar, we recalibrate. We don't wait for love, we activate. Raise your vibe, find your tribe. Let your roots run deep, let your spirit ride. True train rolling, we don't divide. We lift each other up, we don't backslide. Got my council on deck, got my elders in mind. We speak in rhythm, we move in time. From the swamp to the stars, we claim our name. We ain't just survivors, we run this game. Chugga chugga heartbeats, drumline soul. We carry the stories that never get told. Raise the banner, light the flame. True train tribe, we don't play the same. Raise your vibe, find your tribe. Let your name be known, let your soul revive. We here to heal, we here to thrive. True train tribe, we'll electrify. Raise your vibe, find your kin. True train rolling, let the love begin.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, sing it.
I can't hit them notes.
Well, you could have applied some other pressure.
They got me under pressure.
That's right. That's right.
Everybody can hit that high note on Gelding Day.
Uh-huh. Okay, we got to change the subject now. That's painful.
Well,
Well,
welcome to
good.
the war room.
There you go. Bring it on, sheepdog.
It is September 11th. Glad everybody's here. I want to say salute to all the veterans out there that have served, past, present, and those that have even sacrificed. Right? We have 22 veterans that commit suicide a day in this country, and I'd like to see that number at 0 one day. You know, but I could only hope. But for the most part, I just want everyone to know that has served that I give a shit. I care about your service. I care about your sacrifice, and it wasn't in vain. So just keep that in mind, guys. Let's lift each other up. You know, especially in the holidays, it seems to be the hardest time for a lot of people. So, but
just want to say a quick hi to the family real quick and panel.
Roger that. And I will say this, as a military dependent son, I learned a long time ago not to say Happy Veterans Day, because that, like Sheepdog was elaborating, this day, the people that 9 times out of 10, these veterans have dealt with a lot, lost a lot of wingmen, lost a lot of people in their lives. So support them, encourage them, keep them all in your thoughts and prayers. They've done a lot for this country, past, present, and future.
There you go.
The 2%ers have been
Mhm.
holding line for a long time. The 2%ers, the sign and swear group, the ones who go through the process. I have a son who's serving. My father served. I could not pass the physical, or I would have served. I was a contractor instead. So, and thank you, Ken, for your service. I know that time was specific, and you did that with the right intention. So, thank you, and thank you all the veterans out there. I totally echo Durandal's statement.
Salute. Check, check.
Yep, you're here, you're live, you're kicking. Well, we hope everybody had a good day today for Tuesday. Trying to keep the vibes high. So don't know where Sheepdog again want to drive this train, but we're ready to rock and roll. So flip a coin and let's roll.
Look like something y'all got. You got something pulled up. Let's take a look at it.
All right. It's some of the stuff that Bird was going through. She said somebody had mentioned something about old school foods. Well, what'd you call it? Recession foods. So I'll add the first one up. This will bring back memories to a lot of people. Here we go. From the original Wonder Bread to what we have now, you can see the ingredients on the left-hand side compared to the ingredients that are now.
Wow.
Yeah, you wonder what's in it, huh?
Well, there it is. That's a lot of ingredients compared to the 6 that were originally there.
Everybody pick a word and go look it up and then post it in the chat.
There you go.
Each one of you grab one word. Just do it all simultaneously and boom.
You just want me to run the list for you?
Go ahead.
I'm familiar with a lot of these. So what you're looking at here is a component structure that, like, okay, let's go down the list here. The wheat gluten side, these are all part of the engineered food baseline. But what you're seeing here is a replacement set. So when you get to wheat flour, you've got the wheat gluten, you've got a yeast content. But a lot of these, the sodiums, the calciums, the stearates, the monoglycas, those are replacing the salt. Oh, just the salt. Salt is the high pH is the most important thing you can do for your diet. So we can play the game where people go post what these are in the chat, but all of them are their own rabbit hole. You're supposed to get lost in the list. There's a bunch of these, so I'll stop commenting and catch up. We're getting to catch up next.
Well, speaking of ketchup, we're going to ketchup next.
Yeah, there's that high fructose corn syrup.
And see, now it's in a plastic bottle. And now I do remember being a kid being in a glass bottle.
Because we're in an upside down world. You see it? They flip the bottle.
Yep.
You had to. Do you remember Heinz 5-7 in the anticipation commercial? You had to hit the bottle on exactly the right spot.
Yeah. At the exact number of same times.
A pounding rhythm. Okay, so
right.
modern ketchup, this thing on the right over here, the Heinz product is 56% sugar. So if you feed your children a big glob of Heinz ketchup, you think it's a fruit and a veggie, if they're under 7 years of age, that amount of sugar content is bad for their brain at a high level. So there's more sugar in the average ketchup than there is in the average soda.
I'll pass. And what's America's favorite thing to put ketchup on?
Everything? Pizza?
Well, yep. But there it is. I mean, back then, McDonald's had Idaho potatoes, beef tallow, and salt. That was all there was.
Is there a side effects label on the back of that McDonald's thing on the right?
There probably is, but it's probably written so small you couldn't read it.
That's probably a direct effect.
So I want to tell a story about McDonald's French fries. May I do this, please?
Go right ahead.
In the early, mid 80s, McDonald's changed the way that they sourced their potatoes. And they demanded that an industrial farming complex came forward, which was part of the food conglomerate, which they also own, by the way. McDonald's owns every part of the chain, the real estate, everything. So they demanded that only one type of potato may be grown. It's a GMO potato. And that it had to be covered with a specific number of components, pesticides. And this was all so that not one single McDonald's potato that became a French fry would ever have a black spot in it. Now, if you've ever made your own French fries, which I did just yesterday in beef tallow, then you know that there's black spots because that's just what happens with potatoes. But McDonald's didn't want this to happen. So if you are this is absolutely the truth to this day. Well, I don't know if to this day because of what RFK is doing, but since the early 80s, you have to put 3 or 4 pesticide coverings on your potatoes while they're in the fields. And then when you do what's called degassing, you harvest your potatoes and you put them in these large open wire encased bins so that they can breathe. There's a specific layering so that they don't mold, etc. Well, they won't mold. So ever. I put McDonald's French fries on your table in 10 years, they won't have mold. There's a cam of a 30-year-old Happy Meal that doesn't have mold on it. It's on YouTube. So the degassing procedure in the warehouse that's done in, if the farmer enters that warehouse without a hazmat suit, he'll be dead within 90 seconds because of the gas produced by the potatoes. That's absolutely the truth. They go from there to a processing facility where they get freeze dried and they get prepared to be put in canola oil, corn oil, or soybean oil, or hydrogenated soybean oil. So the McDonald's that we eat today is not the McDonald's that I remember eating in the early 70s in the beginning. So McDonald's fries are not good for you, is my point.
So true. And here's the next up is another people's favorite. Or it was a kid's favorite when I was a kid. And again, it was in a glass jar. No more plastic, but you can look at the ingredients now compared to now and then.
Is that one of the peanut butters that you can't feed to your dogs? Aren't there certain peanut butters you can't feed to your animals? We've heard that.
That's a good question, and we probably ask that question again tomorrow night to get more clarification. But I think you're right.
Xylitol and birch sugar are the ones that you stay away from.
Bert is saying the peanut butter that has xylitol
Or birch sugar.
and birch sugar is the ones that you need to stay away from because they can be deadly to your pets.
And to you, someone told me one time, if you care about your dog, you wouldn't feed it people food. And I'm like, well, if you care about yourself, you wouldn't eat people food.
Well, are you eating people or people's food?
I don't know, but the
You
glass
having
jar is
grandma
made from
for-
sand, right?
What was that, sheepdog?
Glass is made from sand, so that's something that's natural. The oil is what they make the plastic out of.
Yep.
Petroleum. That's why it was so, they were pushing the oil, the tycoons and shit, and the pharmaceuticals, and then they switched over to from glass to plastic, even in our soda bottles.
Yep.
Yeah, and the shredded cheese has sawdust in it from keeping it from clumping.
That's how I get my fiber. They're cheating.
Little sawdust never hurt nobody.
That's right. Come on, when you were a kid, you know everybody on this panel ate dirt.
So are you saying when you eat shredded cheese, when you go to the bathroom, you 2x4 comes out?
Exactly.
Only
That's
if
what
you're
they
shitting
saw.
well.
Well, that's where. If you're building a house, you might as well get all the help you can.
I would totally use sawdust in my recipe.
I know. Especially if you get it flavored with like some apple seasoning or some hickory or walnut. Fantastic.
So I take it you can have that
Everybody
walnut
here
too.
ate dirt. Everybody here ate a dirt pie out of their sister's Easy Bake Oven and killed the Easy Bake Oven. Oh
I'm
wait,
glad.
that was just me. I think that was just.
I'm glad I didn't have a sister, Gan. And here's the last one that Bird found. Who remembers the original glass Gatorade bottle?
Flavor.
And one flavor with not all those ingredients in it.
So if
I
you drank
remember that.
Gatorade on a long road trip, there's a good chance that you might replace because that bottle is a pretty specific component. It had a tight lid. You might actually put piss back in that bottle, and maybe your friend would think it was Gatorade because there was only one flavor. This happened to me.
I was about to say that sounds like a personal story.
Yeah, that was very specific.
I was the pisser, not the drinkee. Just for the record.
Yeah. Note to self: do not ride on long trips with Gandalf. Okay,
In the military, you piss somebody off, you get pissed in. Your canteen might end up with piss in it.
you're right.
That's better than a laundry item full of soap bars.
Yeah, we don't need no blanket parties, no code reds here. But we don't know anything about those.
The only bad part about peeing in a Gatorade bottle is when it's full and you got to pinch it off and don't have another one.
Oh my gosh, you guys got a lot of experience with these Gatorade bottles.
Well, the redneck prostate exam is trying to stop after filling one bottle. There's no copay.
No copay.
Well, truck drivers know which bottle to use.
But do we get any truck drivers on this panel?
I've been known to haul a living quarters horse trailer. Does that count?
Oh no. In Glenn Diaz's husband a driver, truck driver?
Yep.
Yes.
I guess we need to bring him on and have him give us his perspective on the bottles.
Yeah. Preferably, you need to get the wide mouth Gatorade bottles.
Well, only if you're not Asian.
Oh, here we go. Whoa, this show has turned off to took a mighty hard left-hand turn.
Well, you could use, if you're Asian, you could use a soy sauce bottle.
The opinions expressed on this show
Well, cheating, doesn't that also require chopsticks? There's a certain dexterity level here.
Okay, I'm laughing.
I didn't even show head games.
Oh no. Bird just made a major observation of why she named the show Head Games.
That's not why I named the show that.
Subliminal messaging.
I'll tell you about name and brand.
Okay. Can we change the subject now before we all get kicked off and in trouble?
So,
Well,
So
if the big, hey, real quick, Gandalf, if the big Gatorade bottle didn't work, you could always, if you're well endowed, you could always use a Mickey's Big Mouth.
well, my first wife could hit the top of a 2-liter Diet Coke bottle. She was an accurate pisser, but she was from Florida. You're genetically inclined. It's like Puerto Ricans in body work. They come out of the womb with Bondo in your hand. Okay, so Sheepdog, can you look on your Facebook page? I called you out. There's a picture of a 1932 coin with a swastika in the middle of it. Can you pull that up? I can try it up on my side, but my bandwidth is never super reliable. Do you see that in your Facebook feed? It's from 1 hour ago.
All right, is it on Messenger? Hold on 1 second. Let me see. Let's see. Shout out to everybody on Facebook. There we go.
I can try and pull it up here. Let me see if I can get away with this.
Yeah, I don't really go on Facebook much, so I'm really still new to how they get the new layout.
Yeah, I've been trying. Anyway, if I don't share audio, I might be able to get away with this. So there's a bunch of this is my Facebook page. I'm on the wrong screen scrolling. This is my Facebook page. I called Sheepdog out on this earlier, and I saw this post right down here. I'm sorry, it's only half the page. Maybe I can make this a little bigger.
1932, huh?
Does it even give me the other side? No, it doesn't. Sorry. So this was a coin that was minted because there's been a bunch of discussion about what happens when the government comes back. Oh, damn it, I lost it. Where'd it go? 1 hour ago. Here we go. This caught my eye because there's been a bunch of discussion around government actually comes back and whether or not we're still going to be under the rule of maritime law or the inception of the republic is actually going to happen again. And Sheepdog, I'd love to tell you that I'm on Telegram in the morning listening to you guys. I know you talk about a bunch of topics. Have you guys addressed this what if we're actually winning this thing and the shutdown is about disclosure and reassignment of assets and ushering in the republic and common law? Because I truly do not believe we've won this thing until we have the republic back, our constitutional republic prior to 1871, with the non-existence of the Fed and common law as a baseline for our day-over-day judiciary. Have you guys broached this topic?
Times. Yeah, many times we've gone over it. There's several republics trying to pop up, but there's also one of the vets that's working on a property for the vets. There's going to be a split, and he talks about that as well. So there's
okay. So I can
there's different things going on
from a
different
judicial
communities.
standpoint. Well, Texas has talked about seceding. There's a portion of the Carolinas that has talked about becoming its own independent republic. There's parts of California that have tried to spit off all on their own, mostly up, from Mount Shasta down and closer to Washington State. So, Cheating, do you want to chime in on this? Because I'll coming up to my graphic in a second, but I know that the electoral process has quite a bit to do with this. Do you want to chime in before I go back to my graphic? And Nadine, if you want to jump in as well, I think this is important that we get as many perspectives as we can onto how we get out of the maritime law pit, because it's a pit.
All I can say is just say no. Go ahead.
It's already going, apparently they're going under common law, and that's why they're doing all what they're doing. But there's going to be a split where you can go out or go within one of these things. So you can have a choice to be free or under something else. It's totally sovereign or under something else. depending on what group you join.
Sort sort of calls out the NPCs, doesn't it?
I mean,
You know,
some
the
people
people
will
that
go in.
I don't know why anyone would choose to not be. Why would someone choose to not be sovereign? I guess is the question. You're getting a lot of feedback about this in your morning show. Why would someone choose to not be sovereign? That still stymies me greatly.
Some people aren't used to being sovereign. They haven't even cleared their mind of that. They think there needs to be some form of government.
Some people support the boot on people's necks.
Yeah.
They're called bootlickers.
Exactly.
Say that a different way, Ken. Say that a different way, because that's a very important point.
Some people like for somebody to tell them what to do. They like to be handcuffed and slapped around and treated like a damn whatever. And I don't know, Stockholm syndrome. You know, you kind of fall in love with the abuser. You know, and you're in an abusive relationship, but you love the person so much and you don't want to leave them, and this, that, and the other. And it's just, man, this shit is. You just got to understand people's personalities. Some people are just submissive types. I'm not, and I hope there's millions and more, you know, that aren't
Okay,
submissive.
Yeah, it's like someone saying we need better leaders. I'm like, you might want to go back to the drawing board on that saying.
David can understand.
so my proposition here, the perspective that I'm attempting to bring, is that if you're listening to our voices here, then and you're really not identifying with what's happening, then you might be a victim of grooming. There was this No Kings protest that happened weeks ago, and I was watching some of the footage of this street level footage from people with their cameras and stuff, which could all be fake, could all be AI, and it's mostly older white people, like my people. I'm an older white guy, and I can still hit the golf ball, but I'm no spring chicken anymore. I can still get in the saddle and throw a saddle, but I'm not going to go out there and do a No Kings thing. I'm not going to do any kind of rally. I'm going to feed my animals and make my property better. That's my daily goal. And doing this. So that you might be a victim of grooming if you don't see it. Mike Penny and I used to talk about this a lot. We used to talk about where's this crimson veil between the people that you're just like, you know what? I'm done. I'm pulling my hands. I'm not going to help anymore. You're just too gone. You're never going to listen to me. All you do is take my energy. Well, that's the same description of someone that you are engaged with who might just need some perspective. And that usually lies in a truth, right? We're all truthers here in one form or another. Is that a 9/11 truth? Is that a frazzle drip truth? Is that the Fed is a private organization truth? Is that vaccines are maybe not your best health decision? I think that'll make it past the filter. So I was thinking about today's show earlier today and really trying to make sure I had some input here. Yeah, because I just love this platform. I love the team. I'm so pleased that we're here at this time right now. So how do we create perspective in this environment? It's really where we're, at least where I'm trying to say. So here's an example of some possible perspective. I found this in Facebook earlier today. This is a coin that was put out in 1932. This is the celebration of the end of the Depression. Does anybody recognize some possibly offensive iconography there? So I'm working on a guy to bring on Thursday. He's an AI specialist. He's someone I've been working with for a while, and so I went and asked Grok about this because if I'm a normie, I'm not woken up, I'm just maybe thinking about actually eating an egg that hasn't been refrigerated or something, truly radical, or maybe some raw milk, or using an oil, a tincture, or a tea instead of taking a Western medicine, or whatever the real changes in my life, right? I'm going to go ask AI. So I went and asked AI. I said, the minting of this, here's my question to AI. What is the history of the 1932 end of the Depression gold coin? Be specific about the symbolism on the coin itself. And I gave it. I didn't even give it the image. Here's the response that I got from the AI. There was no official U.S. coin released in 1932 to mark the end of the Depression. The 1932 $10 Indian head gold eagle is a distinct coin from that era, and its 1933 counterpart was nearly all melted. The idea of the 1932 end of Depression coin likely refers to a privately issued, non-circulating token from Germany featuring a mix of symbols, including a swastika, a Star of David, the Eye of Providence, and a four-leaf clover. In 1932, a U.S. $10 gold eagle coin. This is the 1932 coin that's in the bottom there. The symbolism is this coin was designed by Augustus St. Gaudens, the Observe. The features are a depiction of liberty with a headdress based on ancient Greek coinage and a portrait of Davida Clark, St. Gaudens' mistress. Reverse shows a flying eagle adapted from a 1905 inauguration medal. Historical context, these coins were minted during the Depression, and the U.S. went off the gold standard in 1933, leading to most 1933 later gold coins being melted down. So in 1932, the German end of Depression token, it is a privately created token, not an official U.S. coin, that became known through an image posted on social media. The symbolism is a collection of symbols reportedly linked to a German company, the celebration of the Nazi Party's victory in 1932 elections, and the perceived end of the Depression. The swastika symbol of the Nazi Party, the Star of David, a Jewish symbol, the Eye of Providence, a symbol often associated with Freemasonry and God's watchful eye. The four-leaf clover is a symbol for good luck. The significance of this symbolically is the combination of these symbols is a highly unusual and a subject of debate. Some believe it was a form of symbolic commentary or perhaps even a mockery of various groups, while others see it as an expression of the token's creator's beliefs, according to Scott Elliman, who is the primary. I asked Grokpedia for an answer to this. It didn't give me a real answer. It gave me 837 possible responses, not a synopsis. But I want to be very specific here. In 1932, this is a token. This is not an official U.S. coin. Does that sound like an apt description of cryptocurrency in our current environment? And the symbols that are on these currencies that are the representation of divinity, nationalism, and luck. And they're the end of a depression. You see my tie-in there, sheepdog? There's no new stories, baby. This is all the same cycle. The perspective that I would like is find your cycle.
Not that it matters, but was that coin copper or gold or anything?
Bronze or gold, maybe?
It was solid gold. It was a $10 gold coin with gold as the standard in 1932. It was a $10 weighted currency.
Real money. Yeah, I've seen how they had the Star of David, the Pentagon. I mean the Nazi thing, right? And the all-seeing eye,
All
all on one coin. It's like a clover in the middle.
And an eye.
The all-seeing eye.
I want to see the pyramids as well, in each little couple pyramids. Well, there's 6 of them, but anyways, all that is the Big Dipper, and
Right.
and each way direction the Big Dipper points is the season.
Yeah, it used to in ancient times
A-
that was
astrology.
the peace sign, right? It got hijacked, of course,
Right, the peace sign,
and it was the constellation.
or not the peace sign. Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. It was also on the Native American buildings.
Yeah, called the creeks.
The crux.
The creeks.
The end of depression and the beginning of suppression.
Yes. Yep.
But the year 32. And
Could have been
we're
932 because they added the one.
That's right. They sure did.
yeah.
I love the discussion about 1,000 years
years.
being stolen from us. It's
Yep.
such a great discussion.
That changes everything, doesn't it? Because they have history like we watched today. We showed a video about the buildings and stuff, right? And how towns are built on top of towns on top, and
Yeah,
they got
sure.
history pancaked like a pancake, and there's layers of it under us. Our
Show that
history's under our
video.
feet.
Show that video. That's a good video.
I can show some of that if y'all like. We can, and you'll show that 1,000 years, Gandalf. That they're where who built the buildings, right?
That's right.
What
I
people
would
coexisted.
love to have that discussion. I've done thousands of hours worth of research on this. Yes, sir. Please bring it, baby.
I want to know if that's real.
I like the buildings. I think they're beautiful buildings. I really do. I mean, it's just gorgeous to see them, and they're just
So
it just open up a whole nother world when you just look at them and say, "Wow, look at the craftsmanship, look at the creativity, look at what they put into the buildings, the communication that they." Because when you look at the building, it speaks, right? The architecture,
Yes.
right?
And real quick, they don't deteriorate either. So when you go down the levels of the buildings, they still look the same. I mean, if you flooded this place I'm living in, it would just deteriorate, with the wood and all the other stuff.
So that special tincture mixture is called Roman concrete, and it's made from ash and salt water, and it cures. The harder it gets, the older it gets, the harder it cures. It is also conductive. So if you look like the Arc de Triomphe in Paris, it's right down the street from the Eiffel Tower, which is an ether gathering device. That's all Tartarian architecture. All the arcs were positively and negatively charged. They're big magnets.
The buildings that shouldn't be here, the tunnels that weren't supposed to exist, the architects who might never have lived. Springfield, Illinois, a city most people drive through without looking twice. But if you stop, if you really look, you'll notice something that doesn't make sense. Right in the heart of the city stands the Illinois State Capitol building, a massive dome of cast iron and limestone, 361 feet tall, taller than the Statue of Liberty, weighing more than 8 million pounds. They tell us it was built between 1868 and 1888 by hand, with no cranes, no electricity, just ropes, horses, and a lot of determination. But there's a problem. There are no verified construction photos. None. You can find portraits of the politicians and photos of men posing after it's done, but not one image showing the dome being assembled. The archives talk about budget delays and winter setbacks, but somehow every column aligns perfectly. Every arch mirrors the next, with millimeter precision. Each limestone block was quarried in Joliet, carried nearly 100 miles by rail before rail cranes even existed. And yet, no record of how they lifted the 80-ton dome sections. Even the cost doesn't fit the era. $4.5 million in 1880s money. That's roughly $150 million today, during a time when a mason earned $1.50 a day. So you tell me, did a handful of men in the 1870s really build something that our modern engineers still call impossible without steel? Or did they inherit it, a structure from an older world dressed up with a new story, a new flag, a new date carved on the cornerstone? They say it was built, but it looks more like it was found. Go 1 hour north to Lincoln, Illinois. At the center of the town stands the Logan County Courthouse, a 1905 classical revival building, according to the plaque. But what the plaque doesn't tell you is that this courthouse has been restored 3 times, and with every restoration, something disappeared. The original copper dome, gone in 1973, replaced by a flat roof for maintenance reasons. The basement sealed off, the stained glass removed, and when they finally rebuilt the dome in 2021, it wasn't copper or steel, it was fiberglass. The local news called it a proud preservation effort. But the dome they saved isn't the one our ancestors saw. It's a replica, a costume. And here's the pattern. Every so-called restoration project across America starts with scaffolding and ends with simplification. Less detail, less depth, less soul. They call it modernization. But what it really looks like is quiet erasure. You don't have to burn a city to rewrite its history. You just need a few renovations, soft irony in voice, because the next generation will never know what used to be there. Only what you tell them replaced it. In 2020, during foundation repairs at the Illinois State Capitol, contractors uncovered something unexpected. Hidden beneath the building, a network of arched limestone tunnels, 12 feet wide, carved smooth, blackened with soot. They aren't on any official blueprints, not from 1868, not from 1888, not from any year. The state called them ventilation shafts, but they don't connect to air systems. They run too deep, too long, and they curve like aqueducts, not ducts. Walk down there, and the air feels different, stale, heavy, ancient. You can still see where fire licked the walls. The old bricks are hand-cut, laid in patterns that match 18th century canal architecture, not 19th century civic buildings. It's as if the Capitol wasn't built on solid ground, but on top of something older, something they never expected to find. The same pattern appears in dozens of cities: New York, Chicago, Seattle, entire levels buried beneath our feet. Maybe that's why they call it foundation work, because they keep finding the foundations of a world that shouldn't exist. Springfield Union Station, completed in 1898, a proud monument of fireproof stone and iron, but it burned 3 times, 1907, 1908, 1909. Each fire erased the same thing: the records, the drawings, the interiors, and every rebuild stripped the structure down, simpler, plainer, emptier. They blamed a pipe, then wiring, then spontaneous combustion. Funny how the most convenient fires always start near archives. Chicago had one in 1871, St. Louis in 1849, Cincinnati, Boston, San Francisco, the same story on repeat. The great fires of the 19th century didn't just burn cities, they burned memory. Brick and stone don't ignite, but stories do. And once they're gone, You can rebuild whatever version you want. They call it tragedy, but it feels more like a cleanup, a reset. Because when the evidence doesn't fit the narrative, fire fixes everything. Every great building has a name attached, a signature to make the story official. But some of those names, they don't add up. George V. Barnett, the architect of St. Louis's old courthouse, is credited with structures completed after his death. E. Haynes, credited for multiple Illinois courthouses, has no birth record, no obituary, no portrait. Don Barber, said to have designed half the East Coast, dies at 53, yet his style keeps appearing for another decade. Try searching them. You'll find the same recycled lines. Prominent architect, prolific designer. His works are too numerous to list. That's not biography. That's filler. It's almost like someone filled the gaps with names that sound credible, to keep the illusion of continuity. No diaries, no construction notes, just perfectly aligned timelines that read more like data entries than lives lived. Maybe these weren't the builders. Maybe they were just the cover stories, the faces assigned to buildings that were already here. Drive across the river into St. Louis, Missouri. There's something strange about this city. It feels old, older than it should. On one side of the downtown square, the Basilica of St. Louis, foundation laid 1831. On the other, the old courthouse, completed 1862. Look closely. Both crowned with domes of copper and stone. Both guarded by griffins and winged creatures, each holding spheres like conductors. We call them ornamentation, but they look more like technology. Those spheres, identical to the finials on cathedrals across Europe. The same geometry appears in ancient Egypt, the missing pyramid capstones, aligned with stars and sun. And just across the river, Cahokia Mounds, a prehistoric city built 1,000 years before Columbus, aligned perfectly with the solstice sunrise. Different names, different stories, same blueprints. What if these aren't coincidences? What if they're fragments of the same civilization, an old world grid we've forgotten how to read? They call them myths, they call them decorations, but maybe they were conductors, the hardware of a lost world. Seattle, Chicago, Oshkosh, Springfield. Everywhere you dig, you find the same thing, a city under the city. In Seattle, the underground tour shows old sidewalks 20 feet below today's street level, buried after the 1889 Great Fire. In Chicago, entire blocks were lifted 4 to 14 feet between 1856 and 1875 to install sewers, and now you can still see doors half buried in brick. In Oshkosh, Wisconsin, old walls were found under Main Street in 1931, stone foundations for unknown buildings. And here, in Springfield, walk around the Capitol Avenue area, and you'll see window arches below the current sidewalk line. Whole floors buried under new pavement. They say it's urban development, but the more you study the pattern, the clearer it gets. We're not building new cities, we're reclaiming old ones. Each foundation is just the roof of what came before. History isn't linear, it's layered, like sediment, like memory. Maybe we didn't start from nothing. Maybe we started from someone else's ruin. Quiet music builds, ambient piano. They tell us we're living in the modern age, but maybe we're just walking on rooftops of a forgotten world, pretending we built it.
America is the promised land. This is another temple with ancient Hebrew right here, right? That's not the Star of David or the Seal of Solomon. That's the Star of Remphan, and this is the Tabernacle of Moloch, all right? These were literally built by Solomon. You can see how it says Bethel Jacob. Jacob was the father of Levi, and Solomon appointed all of the tribe of Levi in these synagogues. right here in 2 Chronicles 9:14. According to the order of David, his father, he appointed the divisions of priests for their service, the Levites, gatekeepers by their division at each gate. This right here is a gate, okay? They painted over this stone right here. That's why it's all chipping off right here. There's nothing for the paint to stick to. Later in 2 Chronicles 11:13, and from all their territories, the priests and Levites who were in all Israel took their stand with him. For the Levites left their common lands and their possessions and came to Judah and Jerusalem. Right, then you got the Judah temples. I showed you these yesterday. These are the Judah lines on the Judah temple. I recorded this building yesterday and posted it. They tried taking it down and it stopped all the flow to it. All right. The tribe of Judah appointed the priests in all those synagogues, the one I showed earlier in this video and the one yesterday. Later in Chronicles, right, Asher reigns in Judah. Now in 1682, right, Asher Levi, the first Jew to settle in America because he was appointed at this synagogue. They messed with all the dates. Asher Levi, that's Asa and Levi, the tribe. They came over here a lot earlier than what we're being told. They lied about the dates. This is all goes back to Rome.
Right here. He pointed this out
Hey,
today.
Sheepdog, I sent you
it's
in the
spelled
private
H-O.
chat. There's a link from the 1906 earthquake. Will you play that? Will you play that link? I sent you in the private chat for me real quick. It's 2 minutes.
Yeah, but did you catch that? Springfield. Wasn't that where the Simpsons were from?
That's right. Sure
Bingo.
was.
Yep. Can y'all see that?
Mhm.
H-O-V-S-E C-O-V-R-T. Anybody know what that is? You spelled the
That's
house with a
that's a
V?
date. That's a
Okay.
date. That's also a date in numeric in
That's
Greek
what I was Roman
numeric
numerals.
counting.
Yep.
All the
Yep.
U's of all those U's are B's in the whole entire thing, right?
Thirty-three Hart
Build
Street.
your Masonic crest right there.
Did you hear that?
Hidden
33
into
Hart
it.
Street.
Yeah,
These were all
they're
first
Masons
century
that did
buildings.
that.
That article I showed you, that's supposed to be a first century article. They messed with the dates on it. And that's why these ones were added to each side. This is 85 AD.
Right, and that's what cheating is talking about. You see how the number looks a little different?
Mhm.
So when something about 1800s, I think all these buildings were built in the 888 or 888, 850, the year 887,
Yes,
and then they just put a 1 and made it 1887, 18,
because
and
it
then
was an
that's how
I. It was a I
that's how they
originally.
hid or pancaked the whole damn thing. That's why people are like, wait.
The ones do not match. The weathering, it's not cut out as deep as right here. You really think that these are millennial reign buildings? Your body is the temple, all right? Skin cells are stacked like brick and mortar. The proton motive force is what each one of your cells run off of. It's made inside the mitochondria, the Christa, the Christ of your mitochondria. The electrical potential runs at 1.44 millivolts. It's 144,000 volts. They got you coming to these pagan synagogues paying homage. America is
Hey, grab that. There's it. I sent it to you in the private chat.
Hey, Gandalf, real quick. I'm echoing. Did they add the 1 in the 1500s? Because, what happened before 1400, but did they add that 1 in the 1500s?
That's a great question. So if you look at the Council of Nicaea is a returning event that's been happening since like 374. But the Council of Nicaea in 542 was the start of the adoption of the King James Bible. And then we're right about the same timeline where Pius the First is the first, Pius I is the first pope that is an elected member from the Khazarian Mafia. And that's when the papacy split to white pope, black pope, red pope. So that it makes sense that I really don't truly trust any document published before or after 542. Because that's when they took over like the interwebs of the time. That starts what we hear as supposed to be the Dark Ages, which progress all the way up into the revolution of societies led by the French after, Genghis Khan is defeated and the horde stop. So that I think that there is an opportunity to create a false history that's 1,000 years deep. That in 542 and 1542, that sure does sound like a clean grand to me. So that's a great call on the calendars there.
A lost piece of Bay Area history unearthed at a flea market and shown for the very first time tonight to the public.
The rare footage of San Francisco following the 1906 earthquake will end up in the Library of Congress. ABC 7 News reporter Katie Yuta shows it to you first.
I knew this was going to be special.
David Keene threads the projector.
This is the way they've done it since the 1890s, really.
And he restores the films.
The Edison Theater in Niles is a historic gem in and of itself. Built in 1913, Charlie Chaplin used to watch movies here.
This premiere is of a film nearly lost to history.
This is, the missing Niles Brothers film. It's been missing for over 100 years. We know about its existence, but until now we've not known where it is.
The Miles brothers shot Trip Down Market Street in the days before the 1906 San Francisco earthquake and fire.
They shot almost 2 hours of film after the earthquake, and very little of it survives. I think this is one of the longest surviving pieces.
The lost footage was discovered last year at the Alameda Flea Market and in fragile condition.
And I just set up a digital camera that would take a single frame for each frame of the film. And so 8,655 frames of film later, I was able to put it on the computer.
Descendants of the Miles brothers are seeing its public debut.
It's just blowing my mind. It's this whole part of my family history that I grew up not knowing about.
It's like a bookend to the trip down Market Street.
The footage will be converted back to film, so it'll last another 100 years.
It's just scary to think that there's something like that out there that we almost missed. Makes you wonder what else is out there.
After being shown in June at the SF Silent Film Festival, it'll be posted online.
It really is priceless.
For everyone to see.
So they don't show you much of the actual film. You can go find it on YouTube. And there is a longer clip. I can probably go find it and we can throw it up here. But that shows the one the day before and the day after. I wanted that one to show up because it showed this is stuff they're hiding from us. So all of this type of architecture that Sheepdog has on the screen right now, this is frequency-based, naturally healing environments. Are everything in the realm was different. And if you look at the snippets that they showed from that 1900 whatever film, the day before the great San Francisco disaster, of what Sheepdog talked about these all over the nation, same time, they look a lot like Lahaina. They look a lot like Paradise, California. They look a lot like Los Angeles. They look a lot like, all the flood cities are up next. It's just a cycle, right? This is the reset cycle. That's the perspective that maybe gets you there. Keep going, Sheepdog.
It's strange. For thousands of years, there were no asylums. Then, suddenly, around 1800, every country decided people had gone insane. Within 50 years, America built over 100 psychiatric institutions. England, France, Germany, the same pattern. No slow evolution, no prototypes. Just boom, A global epidemic of madness, conveniently arriving right after the Industrial Revolution. They said it was moral reform, that we needed walls to contain the broken minds of society. But I wonder, what if those walls weren't built for the insane? What if they were already there? Take Morristown State Asylum, New Jersey. Opened in 1876, they claim it took just 5 years to build. Look at it. Granite arches, Corinthian columns, perfectly aligned stonework. You don't throw that up with horse carts and pickaxes. They credit Samuel Sloan, the same architect linked to prisons and courthouses. But there's a small problem. Some of his buildings were finished before he even turned 15. Maybe Samuel Sloan wasn't a genius. Maybe he was a name. A placeholder to explain a building that had no origin story. Then there's Western State Hospital in Virginia. Built in 1858 on 666 acres. Yes, 666. They say it was designed by Richard Snowden Andrews at age 27. He had no degree, no documented mentor, but somehow created one of the most complex Greco-Roman structures in the South. Who built it? Prisoners, they say. Because of course they did. Cheap labor, infinite precision. When it closed in the 2000s, they turned it into a golf resort. A place where the past gets landscaped and sold by the hour. Illinois had its own version, Elgin State Hospital, founded in 1870. They started admitting patients 2 years before construction even finished. By 1880, over 1,000 people were confined there, many for reasons like asthma, laziness, or pride. The paperwork says mental illness. But what kind of sickness spreads that fast to that many across an entire nation? When it shut down in the 1990s, they demolished it completely. Not preserved, not repurposed, just erased. You'd think they'd save a building that cured insanity, unless it wasn't built to cure at all. You can find the old admission ledgers online. Reasons for commitment, overstudy, immoral life, spiritual confusion. One woman was institutionalized for reading too much poetry, another for refusing to marry. They said they were treating the mind, but it feels more like they were cleansing memory, removing the ones who didn't fit the new story. Maybe the people they called mad were simply the ones who remembered how the world used to be. Every asylum from the 1800s follows the same blueprint: arched corridors, cruciform layouts, massive stone facades. They said the design helped calm the soul, but when you look at it, it feels more like containment, like fortresses dressed up as therapy. The same language of cathedrals and courthouses, but with the spirit stripped out. Sanctuaries turned into prisons. You start to realize these weren't hospitals for the sick. They were architecture for control. Before 1700, there were almost no asylums. After 1800, they're everywhere. So what changed? Did the world suddenly lose its mind? Or did someone decide to rewrite it? Maybe 1800 wasn't the year everyone went insane. Maybe it was the year everyone forgot. The old world fades quietly, its architecture rebranded, its people reclassified. And the new world, it calls the past madness.
Great poll.
Like that one.
And that's some good stuff there, sheepdog.
Yeah, and that's why Trump's talking about the asylums again.
He's gonna lock us all up, or try to.
Yeah, when he brought up the asylums, I went, "Oh shit!"
That's what Trump was saying.
You know,
Just like
Bird was just telling me she believes between 1700 and 1800 They created those buildings or utilized those buildings to lock up the people that remembered the old times, to wipe that 100 years off and start over with a different narrative.
So you're missing it. You're missing a component there, Birdlove and Durendal, and that's the child trains and the world fairs with the baby incubators.
Yep, she mentioned that as well, as that they sent all the kids to the re-education of youth. Yep, she's right on it.
I bet you Sheepdog can pull a baby incubator video out of the center of the dog pile. So the incubator. So let's. I'll talk over this while Sheepdog searches for that perfect video, because you're killing it tonight, Sheepdog. So there's a bunch of world fairs that happened all over the realm between 1868 and 1907 or 1908. And if you just look at the attendance numbers, nothing balances. It doesn't make any sense. And all these buildings were temporary. But what happens during a reset, because I think that we have a reset cycle that it takes about 25 years for a reset to really happen. And I've been researching this for 6.5 years, really hard. What is the real research or reset schedule? And I think the pivot in the last reset was started in 1871 and ended in 1913. That it's that generational period, because it takes a generation to erase the memory. So when you talk about the 1890s, Durendal, that the child trains are part of this. So they had to replace, and that was the first standardized school, which comes to their current Department of Education, and the Three Pike Wars. I mean, look, it all weaves together. But you have to replace the society, or you can't get away with it.
Search on Old World Photoshop, we began to notice a trend with old postcards from the 1900s showing early examples of compositing. There isn't much information on these. If there's a catalog, it's not easy to come by. But many of these are early examples of photo manipulation. They had surreal, real photo postcards, in which they would attempt to trick people with the illusion of photography. As we continued to look through these old postcards, a very strange and unsettling trend started to become apparent. It began with just simple baby postcards. At first thought, it seems like any ordinary postcard. But as with the Same Sky postcard mystery, where the author began to see a trend of a variety of postcards, well, there's a category of postcards that deserves its own name and label, but it doesn't seem very well known, as there are no websites or videos explaining this topic. We shall call it the mystery of the repopulation postcards. There are other names for this style, such as baby postcards. By the end of this video, you'll be shocked at how many of these there are. We're talking in the thousands. We found one reference to what these cards were in a book on Amazon named Babylon, Surreal Babies, in which the author describes these same peculiar 1900s postcards and how they were deeply influential to many famous artists, including Salvador Dali. Yet, the author even admits that little is known of their history. In order to understand why we've labeled them repopulation postcards, a thorough understanding of resets, Tartaria, orphan trains, incubators, asylums, and Oddfellows will be necessary. These cards depict babies being grown. There are many different styles within this category. One of the most interesting is the Cabbage Patch Babies, a variety of themes involving growing babies. babies on plants, babies on mushrooms, babies in the water. Babies in a nest, babies in eggs being hatched. Then the babies arrive on the train. There's something eerie about these photos, as if someone's trying to tell us something.
We've also got kids in Cabbage Patches. Does this have anything to do with the Cabbage Patch Kids? So where do babies come from? In the early 1900s, the most common answer given to children would simply be that the stork would bring the babies, or that they were found in a cabbage patch. But why would babies be found in cabbage patches? The legend of the Cabbage Patch Kids involves a young boy named Xavier who meets a mystical fairy bunny bee creature, so a hybrid or chimera, and he follows this bunny bee through a secret tunnel behind a waterfall. On the other side of this waterfall, he finds that babies are being produced in a cabbage patch. The stork, known as Colonel Casey, would then come and pick up the babies. He even has his own uniform. So he's a worker, a soldier, as well as the Cabbage Patch Kids' official historian that would then deliver the babies to their new homes. Not only that, but there's an evil witch named Lavender McDay. She and her weasel and jackrabbit henchmen are literally trying to enslave the Cabbage Patch Kids to be miners to dig for gold in the valley. You can get all the exposition for the lore in the story through their 10-song album. It goes over how they were created, to the witch, to even a lament about their enslavement. It's pretty dark. The original concept for the cloth dolls was created by Martha Nelson Thomas, and she called them doll babies. And the story really had nothing to do with cabbages or chimeras or witches. It wasn't until Xavier Roberts, or Xavier, like the little boy in the story, hijacked her design that it became what it is today. So I can't help but wonder if Xavier Roberts just came up with the story all on his own. Like, did it come to him from the collective consciousness? Or does he just have a soft spot for child labor? There's actually a place you can go in White County, Georgia, where they do live births, and you can look it up on YouTube to see what I'm talking about. The bunny bee character also is a hybrid creature of two animals that both symbolize rebirth and resurrection on a mass scale. As we know, rabbits reproduce in droves, and the bee symbolism makes me think of a hive, or a queen or source where all the offsprings originate from. It would seem that this is some sort of reference to babies being created in a lab on a mass scale. Why were there so many orphans? Most common answer will be, the baby boom. But this didn't happen until 1946 to 1964. These postcards are from 1890 to 1910, and there's really no explanation for the burst of orphans that we see being brought into the United States, or the amount of orphanages and asylums that exist that no longer seem to be necessary. Could the baby boom narrative be a way to sweep this part of history under the rug? The orphanages were all shut down, and after the 60s, people just stopped having babies and getting married after World War II, according to the narrative. Then there were the incubators of the 1900s. It's difficult to keep premature babies alive with modern technology, yet they were doing this back in 1835 in Europe. They turned this into a sideshow, where at the world fairs they would show off these child hatcheries, these incubators of live children, and for some reason, the royals would come and witness these events. So there's this genetic manipulation cloning idea, in which these babies are actually being grown in some sort of pods. Perhaps the symbolism of the Cabbage Patch mirrors that process. Humans do resemble plants in the way that we're connected to a stem in our fetal state, and our whole lives are spent ripening. In the fetal abduction theory, we typically see a nurse-looking woman with either a fishing hook or a fishing net pulling a child out of the water. Perhaps the hook and net represent medical tools and the water amniotic fluid. In either scenario, it would make sense that these babies have to end up in incubators or hatcheries. And it begs the question, how did all these premature babies get here? If women back in, these days were having babies prematurely, why in such large numbers? And the babies all being babies, they'd have to have traveled there somehow within a short period of time. What are the chances that so many premature babies were driven from wherever their mothers were to these incubators all in time? And why do they charge people to view them as if this was some sort of exhibition or sideshow and not a pressing matter of life and death? For centuries, the stork has been thought of as a symbol for new beginnings and family lineage. The idea that this creature represents life-giving events also makes sense because storks are monogamous creatures, and they mate only once every year with their partners that they've chosen beforehand, choosing mates based solely on personality instead of looks, like many other birds. Now we've got kids inside a train. Orphan trains. Why so many orphans? Were these orphans taken from their families? Were they trained to instruct a new generation of genetically created babies? Or were they womb-napped babies? And we've got kids growing on trees, kids being carried by storks. The Greek goddess Hera and her Roman counterpart Juno also favor the stork. And I'm sure you guys remember that quirky little teen pregnancy movie from the 2000s. And I suspect that Artemis of Ephesus is an ancient fertility symbol used by the elite to signify their ability to reseed a new population. So we've got hooks removing babies, kids in the water with a woman holding a net or fishing rod. Is the water the amniotic fluid, pulling children from the wombs of their mothers perhaps? Could that be why there are so many premature babies? Or are they genetically manipulated? Cloning is not impossible. Just look at Miracle Millie. I think that the movie Aeon Flux is a great example. Hollywood is definitely alluding to this reality of artificial repopulation. The Cabbage Patch Kids sort of reminds me of those medieval occult books that depict humans growing from roots in the grounds or mandrakes, which are known to have occult properties for making one go insane.
The babies are also ready to join their elite clubs, and they're even given top hats. Technology, clothes, and empty cities? Babies floating in on boats, all signifying children being born or found and then taken by the mother, the one with the basket. Yet, this is a figure that represents the government's function as a mother, a corporate operation of generating foundlings in order to fill their newly emptied and burned cities with new humans. Whoever made these postcards are trying to tell us something very dark about the world we live in, as if it's humorous. There's an extraordinary amount of work put into these early photo manipulations. One would think there should be a good resource for these old postcards, but they are rare and difficult to find. Babies with hats, babies in the empty cities, babies with new technology, babies in the classroom, babies being brought in boats, and babies being grown in a variety of different situations. Is this some type of clever reference to the cloning of humans? We know of the sudden rise in orphans during the 1800s, but where do they all come from? Where do babies come from? All we can hope is that our minds may be unveiled.
Right. So you see that? You see the Odd Fellows? They're talking about the secret societies, the elites, and stuff like that.
Yes.
So Odd Fellows. You haven't done any research on the Odd Fellows? That would be a good.
Right. And We played the video of the Cabbage Patch Factory there in Georgia. What she was talking about, where they do the live bursts, but they have all the famous people's pictures up there, and Trump's pictures up there as well. So it's kind of telling me something.
Those pictures are very interesting. Kind of when it kind of gives me the heebie-jeebies looking at those pictures.
Oh
It does, don't it? It does me too. It gives me a weird vibe, man.
Well, if you have the opportunity to actually do some traveling and go to a city here and there, I'm not talking about Vegas, which is a false city, middle of the desert. If you go to any major, like Chicago was Chalaga on the Tartarian maps, the pre-542 maps, so that you just walk around and you can't unsee it. It's like your wife's bra strap in public. You can't see anything but that until you walk over and fix it. Maybe that's the wrong analogy, but I agree with you, Cheating. If you open your eyes, and you have the opportunity to even walk around the downtown of your old town, go to the courthouse, anything that's got a Masonic symbol in the front of it, it's Tartarian technology. It's energized concrete. The Arc de Triomphe in Paris is one of the last remaining arcs. But those are all positive one side, negative the other side. They're just a big freaking magnet. Sorry to interrupt you.
That's what we're going into with the symbolism of the Oddfellows. They show the red and the blue, right, which is the magnetism, right? The red and the blue, positive and negative.
I love it when my rail lines up with your next video. I love this.
And is that in the modern day, this has become is just a fasces, and it means we need to stick together. They make it sound all innocent because they probably really don't know.
We're definitely very one of those American secret societies that you hear about from the Gilded Age.
Oh, I am in. And to our surprise, their headquarters is in downtown Tuscola. The group sounds like something out of a movie, really.
They're called the Oddfellows, and their goal is to give back to their community. WCIA3's Jessica Coons is here. Jessica, the Oddfellows have been around, it sounds like, for a long time.
Paul, they celebrate their 200th birthday in the U.S. next year. And while we're calling them a secret society, they actually do want you to know who they are because they're working to make a difference. Up a steep staircase in downtown Tuscola, Oddfellows enter their secret meeting space.
Who goes there?
And this is where we give the password. That password gets you into this cavernous room. Ainsley Heilich and his business partner bought the building 7 years ago. And when they walked into this space, they didn't know what to think. Then they found out it used to house an Oddfellows lodge dating all the way back to 1865.
Wow. We found all this great old regalia that was just hidden up in the crawl space, almost like national treasure. It's like you start down a path of little breadcrumbs and it just kind of ropes you in further and further, and here we are.
With 55 lodges in Illinois alone. Heilich brought back Tuscola's order 3 years ago. They focus on charity work. He says people crave being part of something bigger.
For a lot of people of my generation, we were raised on the internet, and we are seeking that in-person interaction, and we're definitely growing tired of all the arguing on Facebook.
He says this room is a safe haven for people looking for more out of life.
When you come to a lodge, you leave all that behind you. You can't talk about religion. You can't talk about politics. All you're allowed to do is focus on doing the good of the order and being good friends to each other.
That's what brought Natasha Gardewine here almost a year ago.
I was kind of looking for a group of people, to we have similar interests and stuff. So I got here and I was really impressed with it because of the group of artists, and it kind of felt like somewhere that I could fit in.
She encourages others to join too, if not for the friends alone, but being part of a secret society is pretty cool too.
So I was looking through photos and I noticed that there was this ritual that involved riding some kind of goat. And so there's a couple books that actually came out talking about different signs and secret passwords and stuff. So, I mean, this is not just some, you know, love and truth organization. Obviously, there's something going on. But in 1845, a supposed expelled and anonymous Oddfellow published a book called Odd Fellowship Exposed, where the writer described a horrific and probably inaccurate initiation ceremony, and in the ceremony, a voice cries, "Prepare the goat," when a large black and white goat steps into the hall and the new initiate is told to mount it. After doing this and grabbing the animal's large horns, the new initiate is thrown from the goat and lands on the floor on his back, hearing laughter all around. So, pretty strange. And then there's another book that confirms it too, so it's not just this book. And it makes you wonder, you know, why don't they talk about these odd fellows doing rituals or being very symbolic? Like, why is that not explained when we kind of look up the wiki page or just a basic explanation of these people? And I also saw that there was this book that kind of explained the symbols a little bit more, and I mean, this could be its own video, but it's very religious. It obviously seems kind of associated with something much older. This is not just some laborers who came up with all this stuff. And so, yeah, I just thought it was kind of weird that they don't really bring this up. I can't help but wonder why they went so far to make it a ritual or symbolical at all. This is just a private men's club, right? If you want to talk about philosophy, then do so, but I think it's more likely that our modern day Oddfellow lodges and groups are the remnants of a secret occult fraternity that was connected to the royal monarchy. They most likely have moved into other organizations, or only the highest ranking members truly know the history of these lodges. Look into it. These Oddfellow Masons try to make it seem like they just talk about life and working as a team and stuff, but if we look at these old photos of these Oddfellows, I think it was something else back then. Look at some of these pictures. I mean, the whole city is in on it. It's almost as if this is some type of orphanage society that groomed the orphans into controlling the next batch of orphans, possibly by giving them some knowledge of the old world. So I saw this when I was looking through Google, and I saw these kind of like illustrations, and I was like, huh, that kind of looks Tartarian, because I know I've seen these types of engravings and pictures in other books where they were like depicting Tartarians, and they look just like this. And supposedly this is Oddfellow costumes. And at first I was like not really sure if it actually was the same thing, but think it is. Here's the Skull and Bones thing. Here are some real Oddfellows, and this is basically like there's different levels. Here's a book talking about it. Let's see. The Warden, the first degree. I click on this. So I think this is something to consider. I don't know 100% how to kind of add this in, but I thought it was weird because it does remind me of some of those Tartarian depictions that we've seen. Not only are they connected with most of the local city institutions, but also the colleges. So if they didn't build all these structures, then what's going on? Well, first we need to take a look at ghost or reset cities. There are many photographs from the 1800s that should show heavily populated cities that seem to be completely empty. It's almost as if it's a total ghost town. What if the majority of these cities were already here, and then some event occurred that wiped large parts of the cities away? A lot of downtown areas are likely the result of this cataclysm. Many of the buildings not only have underground sections, but are only old brick up to a certain point before they are reconstructed with new materials. This would imply that the tops of these buildings were destroyed at some point, And it's more than just a few buildings that could have suffered a random fire. It's dozens, maybe even hundreds in nearly every city. The idea that this is a natural cyclical reset is just as plausible as the idea that our very idea of nature is being manipulated by other humans for the sole purpose of mitigating human populations under the guise of acts of God or weather phenomena. A fact or situation that is observed to exist or happen, especially one whose cause or explanation is in question. A group of inheritors then came in and began the process of using these buildings for their own population. They'd empty out a city and then move in a completely new batch of people. There'd be orphans who knew nothing of their history or the last world. Anyone who knew or didn't follow instructions would be put in the asylum. The way I see it is that the whole War of 1812 has to do with there still being some surviving populations in the US and their attempt to fight off the invaders. There must have been some type of hijacking during this point, and one of the means of doing so was asylums, colleges, and repopulating cities. We have all these fire events occurring during this time, and these are huge fires, and it may be that this is connected to when a city gets hijacked and prepared for repopulation. So let's take a look at some old photos of San Francisco, and they're pretty good quality. It's basically a panorama, and these photos were taken in the 1870s. So according to the history of San Francisco, it was founded by Spain in November of 1769, but it was still a small settlement with, quote, inhospitable geography. So in 1850, there was still no real city yet, and it wasn't until the gold rush that people started moving into these areas in the West, as the story goes. And so the population during this time is supposed to be around 150,000, and let's keep in mind that this is only because of an odd boost in the amount of people in the 1870s, 20 years after the gold rush. It has the largest population increase if we don't include the initial population growth of the first decade. To me, this city does not look like a city of 150,000, but a city of more than 1 million. But where is everybody? There's not a soul to be seen. And one of the common explanations for this is that these were architectural photos commissioned by the owner of the buildings themselves, and so they didn't want busy streets, and it just doesn't really seem like that's the full story, as you would think there would be someone, at least some horses or children walking around. I mean, even on a Sunday, you would see people going out to church. So it's just very strange that we don't see anyone in these photos. It's not just the photos that make San Francisco suspect, but the world fairs that were built and destroyed within a span of 20 years. And this is also home to the largest earthquakes and fires known in US history. Or at least, that's what they tell us, as this seems to be a common theme with almost every city. It's also strange that there was this great flood in 1862 that sank the entire city of Sacramento and left a small island sea in Orange County that lasted for 3 weeks. Seems like a lot of things were happening back then in California. This may have been one of the great events that transformed California's appearance, as it was literally thought to be an island just less than 100 years prior, but no, that's just a cartographic error. Let's move on to Chicago. And I think I need to mention is that some people might need to see literally the exact same scenario as San Francisco with these like HD photos and all this stuff.
So that's like we're seeing the weather warfare, it looks like, even with the earthquakes, the floods, and like Gandalph was talking about, it's just rinse and repeat. We're in a loop. It's just, you go back decades, you go back.
A bunch of years ago, well, not a bunch, dog years ago, you see what I did there? 7 to 1. About 7 or 8 years ago, I really started searching for the reset cycle. I really did. And that's what started Gandalph. My son, who's now doing excellently in the military universe, and by the way, he hasn't missed a paycheck. He helped me build the Gandalf persona a dozen years ago, and it was all about Tartaria. It was all about this lost engagement. I've been in the grounding technology business a long time from a lot of different angles. This is what it's all about. We have been lied to about what we are, where we are, when we are, and what we are capable of our entire lives. I'm so excited about this topic because it's a lot safer to talk to someone about the fact that the history is a lie rather than the fact that, the Fed is a private corporation and we're all being sucked dry because we're debt slaves. So, great Paul Sheepdog. Love this topic.
Some people might need to see literally the exact same scenario as San Francisco with these like HD photos and all this stuff, but it's not always that simple, as it's very difficult to find photos of major cities before 1870, which, if you ask me, it doesn't really make that much sense. Why does California have professional panoramic photos of their city in 1870s, but we don't see anything like that for Chicago or New York? If so, it has been purposely hidden. So basically, Chicago was started in the 1830s, and there's a lot of weird stuff going on with Chicago. Like, the entire city was lifted up by a couple feet, and this was all done by private property owners with jacks. And they were lifting these huge buildings up off the ground because there was flooding due to these nearby swamplands. And I don't really buy that story at all. But on top of that, they tell us that there was this huge fire in 1870. This here is our key, as we have nothing else to go on. This is when Chicago became a ghost city and cleared out. We do have a few photos of what this looked like, and let me ask you, does this really look like just a simple fire? They literally tell us that this is the Great Fire that did all this damage because a cow kicked over a lantern and set fire to a barn, right? So, even the photos in the early 1900s look kind of weird and empty, and don't get me wrong, you can find photos of Chicago populated in the 1900s, but it's like 1906, 1910. This is after the city was repopulated. Before 1870s, you will not see densely populated city photos, which is strange because they completely possess the ability to take these photos, so why didn't they? It also wasn't just dependent on long exposure capture either, as other methods were already being developed, such as Thompson's revolver camera of 1862. The revolver photographique was patented in 1862 and made by a Parisian instrument maker A. Briois. The camera made 4 exposures on a circular glass plate, with the lens being held in the barrel of the gun. This allowed the photographer to aim and steady the camera with one hand, using the other hand to operate the controls. There is no excuse, the technology was there. Why don't we have more clear photos? It's looking as if they've been systematically removed. Now, New York was one of the first cities to be reset in America, as it was possibly one of the largest settlements of the Tartarians at the time. The city was most likely taken over right before the early 1800s. If we look at how it was depicted in the 1870s, we can see that it should be almost overpacked at this point, and even some of the engravings at this time show it to be very dense streets. But when we look at photos from around the 1870s time period, we really don't see that much on the streets. Yes, if you look at the 1900s photos, you'll see lots of people, but if you look just a little bit earlier, there are many photos shot during the day that show streets completely empty. And I do think that there were people here at this time, probably not as much as they tell us, but just look at all these buildings. You would think buildings this large, we would see way more people on the streets. In New York, there's another great fire that was forgotten that occurred in 1776 that destroyed almost 1,000 structures. This fire isn't really well known, but again, you see this in every city as it's a part of the reset process. They must clear these cities out before moving in a new population, and one of the excuses is fires. I found this interesting though. So according to the official history, George Washington and the Revolutionary Army had realized that the British would capture New York City, so they decided to just set fire to everything so that they would gain little from it. Now at first I thought, maybe that's a cover story, but what if there's actually something to that? It would explain why it took the inheritors until the early 1900s to repopulate New York and some of these other cities, as the Tartarians realized that they were going to lose the city and decided it was best to move west and set the cities on fire before the War of 1812. I think it's not too much of a stretch to think that when we see a revolution around this time period, there's some kind of battle going on between the new rulers and the remaining survivors of the old world. I should also mention that there was a lot of compositing going on in these early 1900 photos, which makes a lot of this even more suspicious, but even in some of the most iconic photographs, I believe these to be composites. They did the same thing for construction photos and for adding crowds in. But why would they do this? Well, the main explanation would most likely be for getting these architectural photos, and they would do a certain cleanup process in post, but I don't think that most people are thinking about that when they look at some of these older photos. They 100% had the ability to manipulate and mix photos during this time, so this isn't some crazy concept. But we can still see that something's off with the official narrative, because we should see more people and more photos going back into the 1870s. And even the photos that we do have from the 1890s and 1900s look to be very low population. Some of these photos are very ghostly, and I showed you that we would have the capabilities of shooting HD photos in the 1870s with California, yet the photos we have of New York are mostly from the 1890s and above, and the earliest ones are very, very low quality. So there's no doubt that Philly is an old world American city, but let's just think about this. So Philadelphia is started in the early 1700s, and luckily we have some of the earliest engravings of Philly that most likely are old world engravings, which show a hidden truth to the size of Philly during this time. So this is 200 years before the 1900s, yet if we look at some of these photos of Philly, it really doesn't seem as populated as it should be. Now, we do have photos of Philly in the 1840s, and it's a small view. Most of these have a small view, but no one really seems to be in these photos. Kind of weird that there are no people to be seen, no horses. And we also have to realize that the photos that we have from most of these cities in the 1850s belong to private collections. The vast majority have been selected for approval, and I've looked through this entire Frederick de Boer collection of Philadelphia, and all of them are completely empty streets. They have these very narrow angles, and it just seems very, very empty. When it comes to Baltimore, there are very few pictures before 1870. Again, that doesn't really make sense, and one of the earliest photos is just some random photo of a market. We have photos from the 1900s, and even then it seems that the city was not that densely populated. With structures like this, tell me, where are all the people at? It seems by 1910 they finally started to get the streets busy. This is supposed to be Baltimore in 1870. So why is it that there are such few photos, and the ones that we do have, there's only a couple people in them? And I could continue to do this for other cities in America, such as Louisville, Atlanta, Detroit, and many others, but this isn't something constrained just to the United States. In Toronto, it's completely empty. How could it possibly be this empty? Venice. Where are the people? They're all missing. Moscow. There's obviously something that they're not telling us, and there's a truth that's been hidden in these cities, because it makes no sense to have such huge architectures if these cities have empty streets in the early 1900s. I mean, what are they keeping from us? And why are all the streets in these pictures made of dirt? I mean, you spend all this time building beautiful architecture just to have horrible dirt roads? Nah, they didn't build these cities. These were inherited by different peoples, and then they were cleared out. This brings us to the next step in the reset process, which was the trafficking of orphans into new reset cities. Parents would give up rights to children for multiple months so that the asylum would prevent them from learning bad habits. This was a huge thing back then, where you had these orphan homes and asylums that essentially were one and raised children of the new world. I wonder if many of these families found themselves in positions where they were forced to send their children at some point. From Alone in the World, Orphans and Orphanages in America by Catherine Reef, quote, "Through much of the 19th century, orphanages broke families apart. A parent placing a child in asylum usually was forced to give up all rights to him or her. Many asylum managers believed that separating children from their parents once and for all was in the children's best interest. They knew of no better way to prevent the children from learning bad habits like drunkenness and laziness that might lead them into poverty." Throughout the United States, destitute parents agreed in writing not to interfere in the raising of their sons and daughters. This was a very hard step to take. These parents knew they would never again comfort their children in sickness. They would never again watch their children play or share their joy. They were to have no say in what their children learned in school, how they were taught to worship, or how they were disciplined. Many mothers and fathers, unable to read or write, signed away their parental rights by making a mark on a printed surrender form. It sounds like they were tricked into giving their children away, but she continues to say, quote, "Asylums had an especially high death rate because contagious diseases spread rapidly when many children lived together. In 1849, 20 children died at the Colored Orphan Asylum in New York City, 9 of them from cholera. In 1840, the managers of the Washington City Orphan Asylum were pleased to report, quote, "Within the last 12 months, the withering hand of sickness has barely touched the inmates of the orphan's home. One infant spirit had been translated to a brighter world. Quote, 1 or 2 deaths in a year was a statistic worthy of pride." Cruel living conditions in many asylums promoted the spread of disease. It was not unusual in the first half of the 19th century for orphans to sleep 3 or 4 to a bed. They bathed rarely and wore grimy, stained clothes, giving asylums the sour, poor house smell that anyone who worked among the needy knew all too well. In 1859, when 4 Roman Catholic nuns took charge of St. Vincent's Orphan Asylum in Philadelphia, they found that of the 27 children in the orphanage, 13 were suffering from a skin disease all over the whole body. The children had no clothes for a change and only one suit which they wore. I could actually keep going. There are a lot of these stories when it comes to these orphanages, but the point is that these were not nice places to be. If they had so much money to build these massive structures, right? I mean, look at some of these orphan asylums. They are very wealthy people who built these structures. So if the story is as they tell us, and they built these structures, why do they not have enough money to properly take care of the orphans? I mean, they basically got rid of orphanages in the modern day. I mean, just think about it. Why do they have so many orphanages back then and they're basically non-existent now? Does that make any sense? This wasn't limited to just the United States, as you see these all over Europe as well. There was this need to begin to move massive amounts of people to new locations, possibly for the purpose of causing identity crisis so that they would never know of their true history. We need to realize that these asylum buildings were also orphanages. That's why when you type in orphan asylums, you see the exact same structures. Not only were these mental institutions, but all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there was this rise in orphans. I really don't buy the mainstream story because many of these orphans were taken advantage of and put to work. So there's so much to this beyond just the stolen buildings aspect, but it's strange, right? Why the need to combine asylums and orphanages? I found this article called The Victorian Orphan Asylums, The Real Story, that spoke about how many of these orphanages were owned by wealthy donors who would donate in an effort to receive good publicity. The writer looks at old newspapers such as the Illustrated London News and discovers that they published articles in 1850 portraying asylum activities as fun and joyous, showing fireworks as if everyone was having a fun time, yet The real conditions in the background were the orphans were not getting fed and many were suffering from sickness. I was looking at some of these old photos and I started to see a trend with what's called colored orphanages. There's this engraving talking about how there were riots in New York at a colored orphanage, and the story is that this was a mob of around 1,000 people who decided to go and destroy this orphanage and everything in it, including the children's clothes. And I saw this article talking about this for Black History Month, and they were looking at this from a negative light, as if these people came in and destroyed this charitable organization that was doing a good deed, but I suspect that something else was going on at these orphanages, and some of the remaining survivors of the old world started realizing this, and so they fought back. Of course, the media covered this only from the perspective that benefited their sponsors, but as I kept looking, I realized that these colored orphanages were a big deal. And this is what was called the Colored Orphan Asylum, which was started in 1836 in New York, just around this period of the reset. So here we go again, we have the orphan asylum connection along with the old world buildings, except in this case, we have this focused on the Black population. Of course, the mainstream explanation is that this has to do with slavery and that these children's parents weren't able to take care of them, but I mean, look at this building. How many orphans did they have, and why was this considered to be an asylum as well? It's because it was a reprogramming center, and there were multiple of these. The specific one was supposedly rebuilt as well. Now, this colored orphan asylum was run by white Quakers, I believe, but not all of them were like this, and the Quakers actually started another one called the Thomas Asylum for Orphans and Destitute Indian Children. There's the Howard Colored Orphan Asylum, which was led by African Americans and has a very similar story. I know that many of these organizations seem to have good intentions, but I'm just questionable. I mean, look at some of these old newspapers. They were overcrowded and they wanted to make sure that they were good citizens. I don't know, this just seems super suspicious to me. And why are they called asylums? Mental training facilities. There's also the John Hopkins Colored Orphanage, and look at this place, it's another freaking castle. These are what they call orphan asylums, and I just think it's weird that they have these specifically for colored peoples. I should mention that I've seen several photos with white children at these facilities as well, so not sure how strict they are with it being just Black children, but they really had these colored orphanages in every major city. Some of the buildings are not as large as the main orphan asylum buildings, but they had this for every race, and since there were so many Blacks in America due to them being here already, they needed orphanages specifically for colored peoples. There were also facilities for the Native American tribes, and mainstream history is pretty open about those being re-education camps designed to separate them from their families and traditions, so who's to say that all facilities such as those weren't teaching the same exact stuff? So now that we made the connection with orphanages and asylums, we can now look to see when this all got started, and this is when we get into foundlings. Because before all these orphanages, it really started with the foundlings, and these I believe were some of the first from the old world to be moved around in the old world European cities. So you had these first orphanages being called foundling hospitals, and they were the institutions funded by the Catholic Church for the reception of foundlings, or children who had been abandoned and or taken from couples who were not married. These started to appear all over Europe in the early 1700s in Austria, Belgium, France, England, Scotland, Ireland, Italy, and Russia. Why so many children without parents? Was there some event that displaced a large group of people during these times? The Foundling Hospital in London was founded in 1739 by another wealthy philanthropist named Thomas Coram. It was a children's home for the education and maintenance of exposed and deserted young children. What's so weird is the excuse they give us for calling these places hospitals, because these institutions gave hospitality to those less fortunate. Yeah, they gave out so much hospitality while making orphans sleep or to a bed and creating a place where disease can thrive, such as smallpox. These were centers of control, not hospitality, and that doesn't even make sense. I think they knew what hospital meant in the 1700s. Interestingly, I was looking at the arms of the hospital and there are some clear Phoenician symbols. The multi-breasted Diana? Why would they need to use ancient symbols of repopulation here? This is a replanting seed operation, and they're telling you. These hospitals, just like Napa State, practice eugenics. They were trying to create the perfect race of humans, so these places were experimental repopulation centers for recently cleared cities. So in 1756, the House of Commons resolved that all children offered should be received, that local receiving places should be appointed all over the country, and that funds should be publicly guaranteed. They then allowed young orphans to be flooded into workplaces all around the country. So, after their reprogramming, they put them to work. This exact same thing happened in the United States during the Industrial Revolution. Child labor was perfectly fine during this time. Some as young as 4 would work long hours in factories in dangerous conditions. Young migrants from Ireland and Germany were put into factories in poor conditions and essentially worked as slaves. It's possible that many of these factories and orphanages were owned by the British, who were then commissioned by the Royal Venetians, and they would take over an old world property and begin using these orphans as slaves to use as their own workers. In the Industrial Revolution, most of the children who were workers were orphans and they had no choice to work for food. These children received little to no education. They would work in coal mines from 4 a.m. to 5 p.m., and the young girls would work in match factories, and the harsh chemicals would often cause them to lose their teeth. So, if these orphan asylum hospitals are named hospitals for their hospitality, then why is it that most of these orphans ended up being used in factories during this time? It wasn't until 1938 with the Fair Labor Standards Act that there was limitations placed on child labor. Interestingly, this is right around the time when orphanages started to fizzle away. I guess they lost their ambitions to help the needy once they realized they couldn't be worked any longer. So essentially, it started with these foundling institutions that relocated and placed the children whose parents most likely were associated with the old world in some way, and these children were then put through cleansing or reprogramming, right? And then these orphans went on to become Odd Fellows. These Odd Fellows were funded by royalty and older secret societies. These Oddfellow orphan Freemasons started creating orphanages in old world buildings in America to begin repopulating newly taken over cities. They would send in orphans via the orphan trains. This is in the official history. Between the period of 1854 to 1929, over 300,000 children were transported from New York to the Midwest over a 75-year period in the largest mass migration of children in American history. As many of 25% of these orphans were Irish, interestingly. So don't get it twisted, this was an operation. This was no philanthropic pursuit, this was planned and coordinated. Quote, in the 1870s, the Catholic Church became concerned that many Catholic children were being sent to Protestant homes and were being inculcated with Protestant values. They began operating their own placing out program via the railroad sponsored by the New York Foundling Hospital. Quote, many children fell through the cracks. They were mistreated, malnourished, and overworked, says writer and researcher Marilyn Holt, author of the book The Orphan Trains Placing Out in America. Quote, on the other hand, for at least half, it was a good experience. They had opportunities that they would not have if they stayed where they were. They may not have even survived childhood. End quote. Now, when she says they had opportunities, I think what she really means is that they actually had a chance to join the orphan club, or, like the Oddfellows, had connections with the higher-ups or local officials that then gave them better positions. For the vast majority, this was not the case, but they like to mention that they did get some opportunities, as if this was representative of most of these orphans. Their opportunities were to be worked or starved for most of them. Today, it is said that over 2 million Americans are descended from orphan train riders. It could be even more than that. They use these old world train technologies to traffic vast amount of newly programmed orphans into these cities. This happened in almost every major city in America. According to the official narrative, quote, the co-founders of the orphan train movement claimed that these children were orphaned, abandoned, abused, or homeless, but this was not always true. There were mostly the children of new immigrants and the children of the poor and destitute families living in these cities. Criticisms include ineffective screening of caretakers, insufficient follow-ups on placements, and that many children were used as strictly slave farm labor. End quote. Shouldn't that make us question all of these orphanages and asylums? 3 charitable institutions, Children's Village, founded 1851 by 24 philanthropists, the Children Aid Society, established 1853 by Charles Loring Brace, New York Foundling Hospital are some of the organizations behind these orphan trains. This was funded by wealthy donors who had no interest in caring for these children. I thought this was weird when I saw this in the criticism section on Wikipedia. Quote, many children lost their identity through forced name changes and repeated moves. In 1996, Alice Allier said, quote, I was one of the luckier ones because I knew my heritage. They took away the identity of the younger writers by not allowing contact with the past, end quote. So they lost their identity and were given completely new names. So just think about that, because they don't really mention this clearly when you first look into this. Over 300,000 people essentially got their histories erased and were placed into brand new cities. This is exactly what they wanted, identity crisis, so that we would have no idea who we were in the past. And look at this. Quote, all orphan train children were true orphans, but were made into orphans by forced removal from their biological families to be placed out in other states. Some claim this was a deliberate pattern intended to break up immigrant Catholic families. Some abolitionists opposed placements of children with Western families, viewing indentureship as a form of slavery, end quote. The Children's Aid Society's 6th annual report is a random sample of Children's Aid Society placements made between 1854 and 1890, indicated that 72% of all children placed had at least one living parent. These records also indicate that adult relatives frequently accompanied children on the orphan trains. Basically, they weren't even orphans. They were taken from their parents and relocated by force. Quote, orphan trains were the target of lawsuits, generally filed by parents seeking to reclaim their children. Right? So they don't really tell us the full story about these orphanages. They're not mentioning that, oh, we actually took these children from their parents. So there's something definitely else going on when it comes to asylums, prisons, orphanages, or foundling hospitals all around this time of the 1800, 1812 period, where you start to have these reset ghost cities. And it really makes you think if this was an underground operation that they leave out of the history books, and the purpose was to repopulate recently conquered old world cities with brand new reprogrammed orphans ready for reset with no memories of the past generation. You see, many people are curious as to how could such a history be hidden from us, but if you consider the orphan trains, it makes sense that the first people placed in these cities were orphans who had no idea of their past, so why would they even question the buildings? Their owners could have just gave them a different explanation at the time, and like I said, I think that the very first group of orphans into a city are actually like the prized choiced ones. They are the ones selected to be odd fellows and control the next batch of orphans who come in. So they probably know a little bit and they were given more opportunities in the starting of the city, but they too themselves probably know little of what happened. That secret is known by the royal Phoenician families and other secret organizations who most likely have never revealed their name. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed these last two, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Tell your friends about us if you can, and go check out the entire Tartaria Explained playlist. It's getting pretty big. It's almost 10 parts now, so there's a lot compiled at this point. But what do you guys think? Is there something going on with these asylums, prisons, and orphanages? What do you make of these ghost cities and orphan trains? Stay curious, and all we can hope is that our minds may be unveiled.
Let go of everything you think to be true. Relax the mind and ask the question, do I truly understand what this reality is?
So do you guys notice in most of those pictures that the skies are always grayed out in the 1800s or like cloudy? I can tell you why.
Tell me why.
Well, I don't know on those pictures, but they had the blimps. That's why they did the Hindenburg, so nobody would use the blimps. Prior to the Hindenburg, it was the Beltones. They had the free energy towers with the things on top that got the free energy, and the people would do shopping. They take the blimps over to the Beltones Park, walk down, do shopping, catch another building, walk up. jump on the blimp, and there was bell tone to bell tone. That's why they grayed out the sky. They didn't want you to see those blimps.
Yep. You're exactly right. People were flying.
That would be called your free right to travel right there, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Did you
think it-
notice the exactly? Did you notice the buildings, what they were called? The orphanage. They had Hebrew. They had one called Q. What was the other one?
Jewish, all different types.
Yeah.
So I think they call it Vanilla Skies, like the movie with Tom Cruise, Vanilla Skies.
Right.
Yep. I was just thinking the same thing, Sheepdog, Vanilla Sky.
Yep.
I don't know if that's. But yeah, you can see in some of these postcards they had the blimps in there and postcards way before the Wright brothers even flew
Like that
with
book.
planes on them.
That book I got, Tartaria. It shows that they called them airships, and they had like real fancy ones that look like swans and all sorts of different ones. Yeah.
Yep, yep. So look at this, John Hopkins. Where do we know that name from?
Hmm.
Hmm. Right, John Hopkins University. They were part of the simulation in
Yep.
October 2019. Right.
Yep.
Um, but if you go back and look at some of the pictures, you see right here, supported by a fund from the late John Hopkins in the hands of, listen, let me read, the John Hopkins Colored Orphan Asylum. So Biddle Street, a home for colored orphans restricted at present to girls owing to limited quarters. Children are taken from and between the ages of 2 to 8, and they are trained in household work and may be bound out, remaining in all cases under the oversight of the asylum until 18. And on leaving, homes are found and necessary outfit given. Income supported by a fund from the late John Hopkins. In the hands of the trustees of the hospital and under the management of a body of women inmates. 28. Begun during the war as a shelter for colored children, notably for contraband, chiefly by the exertion of members of the Society of Friends, soon after Mr. Hopkins' death in 1873, and assumed by the trustees of the Fund for Colored Orphans.
Hmm.
And there were all different kinds of orphans.
So that's why you can't go past a certain date when you try to do your genealogy, right? They changed names. They changed their names.
Right. Stolen identity.
Stolen identity. That's exactly right.
The natives, they did the same way.
And they made you forget
your heritage.
Your heritage.
And from which you came. And that's what we're remembering.
Well, I mean, to relocate all of those children with no elders around, within a couple of years, they're going to forget even who they with no elders around to remind them of who they are, where they came from.
That's right.
Yeah. And until you showed that video, even all the way through my high school and junior high and college education, I never thought to even question, why are all these kids working and where are their parents? Well, there is no parents. They were taken from their parents and forced to work. When a child has to work those many hours at a young age, they don't have time to think about who they are, their heritage, where they came from.
Yeah. And then between the ages of 2 and 8.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a great way to brainwash 300,000 to 400,000 children and change the whole narrative.
Well, now we do it and call it public education.
He also
we don't know any better right now. I mean, a lot of people are knowing better, but that's the life. I mean, My
Yeah.
parents, my mom's passed away. My dad's still alive, but that's the way that they were raised through the Depression, and they raised me and my brother what they thought was the best way. But at some point in the 1800s, the powers to be elected with all of these buildings and facilities to change the whole narrative. And I've always had this phrase in the back of my mind: there's a special place in hell for anybody that does anything on a negative side to a child.
Right.
These people that created this narrative way back then, I hope they're all still burning for what they've done.
Exactly. He does one also on the Little Rascals. That's what the Little Rascals
Yeah.
was showing you.
Yeah.
The orphans, right? And that's what they were calling them, Little Rascals. Little Rascals. But yeah, and the Little Rascals, some of them start a secret society.
Yeah.
Yeah, in some of the episodes. So they're showing you.
Well, Bert asked a question while you were playing that video. Is with all of these children, 2 to 8, and with the amount of children that died in these quote unquote orphanage asylums, her question was, were they mining adrenochrome way back then?
Right.
Probably.
Well, yeah, because that's what the Holocaust were all about. Those people really didn't starve. They were sucking the blood out of them. So yeah, they were doing it back then.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why they said 20 of the kids died at the hospital. Yeah. Remember the Queen showed up to that one hospital in Canada?
Well, see, and sure, and Bert had another question with all of these quote unquote high society people showing up at all of these fairs to go see the incubators. Was that because that they were clones and couldn't have children of their own, and they were actually being given these children?
Well, that's what he was saying. He said they could be clones or they could be just genetically modified, taken from their mother's wombs, maybe early. I don't know. That's a good question.
And that I was going to bring it up with. Sorry, you go ahead if you need.
I would just say it's at this point at my young 59 years old. I mean, it thoroughly pisses me off to no end.
Yeah.
To finally realize what they did to all of these children, 300, 400, 500,000 kids way back when, to change the path of Tartaria, all of these cities, to repopulate cities, and to forcibly take these children from their parents, and the parents to agree to it. I don't know what's worse at this point, the parents that agreed to it, and maybe they were just that bad off that they thought this was a better life for their children. I don't know.
I don't think they agreed.
Their parents were somebody.
I think they took them from them.
Yeah.
And forced them to sign or put the X, but
The parents
I don't
were probably
see any parent giving up.
parents were probably the last of a generation that remembered, right? So they came in just like the Holocaust kind of type event, just like they did in Russia with all those people, right? And they took out the parents, and went with the parents to keep the kids to rebuild.
Yeah, sure. And like that guy was saying in the video, but before the 1700s, there was not one asylum in the world.
No.
So all of these parents that had their kids taken away from them, that remembered old Tartaria and what was happening, they just had all those parents committed.
Yeah.
Yes.
To shut them up.
They wouldn't convert.
Right.
Right.
Well, they probably gave them lobotomies too. And the thing is what ceases to amaze me, and I don't want to use the word amazes me, but it kind of does, that they got away with it. The secret societies, and when I've been wanting to say this in chat the other day, but I guess today was the day. But how they got away with all this stuff, like with their symbolism and everything right in front of our faces. And I mean, just like Hollywood, man. And my thing, they were having a party. They were having a great time. It's a demonic, satanic great time. But I mean, it's crazy how they got away with it. You know, just having all this stuff that they did and the symbolism and the robes. And I mean, you know, history does repeat itself, and here we are now. But it's crazy how so many people were asleep to what actually was going on, you know, and here we are, 2025 per se, that, you know, now we're all talking about it instead of then, you know, we're talking about it now. It's crazy how they just got away with that.
Yeah, it is. But they did.
Well, they're disgusting.
It is. It makes you sick.
Yeah.
And this is me being mad.
Yeah,
this is my
yeah.
this is my ascension. Not that the 3D me would have been pissed, but you know, we learn to, you know, I mean, some people have to take a break from all this because it gets to be too much. But me, I just want to keep going because this is
That's how I
gonna
am.
go. Yeah. This is that like not be mad. You know, I mean, I could sit there and be mad about the doctors with my mom too, which I'll share a story another day, but because it's getting late. But yeah, it's just, you know, this is me being upset. I get upset with a smile. So I mean, it is what it is. You know, we don't have to accept it, but at least we're doing something about it because we're the ones who are going to carry this on, so it doesn't happen anymore. We're the only ones left to do this. This is it. You know.
Yeah, that's it.
So I mean, these guys could just be the products of those orphanages, right?
Oh yeah.
Who knows? Is it older pigs?
The guy on the right was P Diddy. Just kidding.
Well, like in the movie They Live, like if you can't beat them, some of them joined them. Right?
Yeah, that's what he said
Yeah.
in that movie They Live. If you can't beat them, they join them. They own the world.
Yep,
Well, I'm all out of bubble gum, if you know what I mean.
that's right.
Gotcha. Yeah, so this is the Indiana album, John Hosteller collection. Also, keep in mind that one of the baby booms we had in America was right during the Operation Paperclip,
That's right.
World War II, right? It
And
was
what were they?
World War One,
They were all into genetics. Those scientists came over here.
right? So when you hear baby boom, you're like, wait, how the hell is that? You know, when everybody just start having just, you know, kids all of a sudden. I mean, just
That's why I think when Trump was talking about lowering egg prices, I don't think it was the eggs we can get from chickens,
yeah, and he was telling people they can only get one doll now instead of multiple.
right? Cabbage Patch dolls, right? What about that?
Yeah, I don't know,
I
man.
think it's deeper.
Yeah, I don't want to go. I don't want to know.
Wait a minute. That goes back to like China when you're only allowed to have one kid. Now you're only allowed to have one doll.
Uh-huh, exactly.
Dolls are creepy anyway.
Yeah, they were. And for a reason, probably.
Yeah, so here we just see some more symbolism: the handshake, Grand United Order of Odd Fellows, right?
Yeah, they
The
were
skull and
odd.
bones.
Who the hell do they think they are?
They think they're God, I guess.
Right here.
And you know, the thing is, if we confronted them, they just all would whimper down like a bunch of, I don't want to say the word, but they're a bunch of wussies.
Well, I mean, the sad thing is if we all stood up and started to confront them and question it, would they do what's the word I'm looking for? Another reset and take all of us out that are questioning it and start over?
Good question. They've done this. It seems like they've done it more than once.
Exactly. So, I mean, we better be ready and quote unquote, as the military would say, locked and loaded because they'll sure enough try it again.
It's crazy.
Well, we definitely don't condone any violence, but we're allowed to protect ourselves. You know, I don't think it'll go there, but you know, I don't think it'll really go there really. I mean, because we're gonna do this with love, and my funny saying memes, but we're gonna do this with love. You know what I mean?
No, I agree with you cheating to one point, but you know, at some point, good men have to do some really bad things.
Well, I agree. Thank God I'm a good man You know what I'm saying? Hey, I'll take the alternative. I ain't gonna lie. I've been sitting down long enough. I'm a spring chicken still in certain ways, man. I don't want to say anything, but you know, I can sit here and do it with love, or I can do the alternative if need be.
I think that's why they said we protect the children at all costs.
Amen. And that's just what I was about to say. I mean, if somebody was going to put me in a position that it's either myself or a child, you know, I feel sorry for that individual.
That's right, because what did they do? They took away the children.
Yep. Because they're all our children.
Yeah.
That's right.
Gotta save the children.
Save the children is more than what we think.
They deserve it. Yeah.
Yeah, instead of see something, say something, it's see something, do something.
Amen.
Yeah, there you go.
Amen.
So what really was the Civil War?
They were destroying shit.
Exactly. And probably people.
Civil War is an oxymoron anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Civil War is two. You got Red Lodge, Blue Lodge. Right? North and South. Brother against neighbor, brother against brother, that whole story. Right?
Yep.
I just couldn't understand why would one brother support one team and the other brother supports the other, and then they go hit a field and kill each other. I'm like, that's impossible. I would me and my brother would never pick opposite teams.
That's what they're saying, that the history that told us is not. It's what they gave us.
Yeah, it didn't make any sense. But then you go back and you look at the destruction of what all they did. That's what they really don't talk about.
Right. And
They
that's
talk about-
what all of it was for. All of it was for was to destroy the evidence and destroy what was being exposed.
Yeah, they talk about battlefields now. That's how, like you have what's one of the famous battlefields, right? They go fight in the middle of a farm, in the middle of a field, and then that's it. No, I think there was one. So the Patriot with Mel Gibson.
Yes.
Or is that the movie
Yep.
I think that's
Yep.
what took place. The people that were still living there, it was their heritage. Then you had some other force come in and try to force them to fight for them, or they did something to the family or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. There's
To go back and look at that movie.
Yep.
Yeah,
They got manipulated and drug into the war because he shot one of his kids.
Yeah.
But you know what? I mean, not granted it was a movie, but any father would have done the same thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. He didn't want to have to do it, but he did it.
Yeah.
But that is it. We're at 2 hours.
Yes.
Alrighty, a lot of interesting topics tonight.
Yeah, and you also got to remember when they were what was it, in Arkansas, they were trying to pass that children can work.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, Huckabee Sanders was talking about lowering the age limit of workers. DeSantis recently to 14 years.
Yep.
Stuff like that. It didn't pass, but as far as I
don't know.
As far as I know, but hell, I worked when my dad took me to work with him. So I mean, my dad put me to work.
Yeah,
He
but
didn't.
I'm talking about because in this, all those kids were working, right, in the factories.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad took me to work when I was a kid. On the weekends and shit, if I needed money for the movies, I better take my ass to the yard.
That's different for family.
Oh.
Right? Yeah.
But on that note, though, the reason that some of the local governments are trying to do that, in my opinion, is because there's jobs out there that need to be filled, but quote unquote mature adult doesn't want to do that for that pay. So the only thing that they got left is to lower the age to fill those positions.
Right, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because they
which is sad that, and excuse my French, But a grown ass adult that's out of work, who needs to work to provide for their family. Now, granted, I understand minimum wage sucks, but why lower the working age to 13 or 14 when mom and dad should go do that job? That's my opinion on it.
Well, why is it so bad that the 14-year-old has to get a job too?
Exactly. Because mom or dad doesn't want to work, or they're an orphan, or they're living with grandma because they're no longer living with mom and dad, or something happened to the parent. I don't know.
Well, they
But
put the woman to work to get more taxes, and now they're putting the children to work to get more taxes. And then the other thing I wanted to say is then they're going to raise the retirement to, oh, you know what I mean? It's like they're just grasping for straws at this point. I mean, even though they could print all the money in the world, but you know what I'm saying? It's like lower that, raise this, do that. It's like the whole everything is really starting to get stupid. I hope it's just like gonna all come to an end. You know, I hope, you know, now they're doing 50-year mortgages.
Sure.
Hell yeah.
They are thoroughly trying to enslave us from a very young age, where we shouldn't be, where those individuals shouldn't have to work, to a very old age. I was thinking, what's it now? They're trying to raise it to what, 67 or 69 years old now for retirement age?
Yep.
They're trying to enslave us for freaking 60 years?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, man.
And put us in deeper in debt. He wants to change the mortgage to 50-year mortgage loans now.
That way you can't. That way you don't want to get them. That's what it is. You'll own nothing and be happy.
That's right.
Trying to force you out of it. I'd rather
Well,
just
that
do
tells
it.
me that the house pricing, the house, you know, market pricing is not going to go down, because they figure just like a car loan. You know, I used to do 4 years, 5 years. Now they're doing 8 years, 10 years. You know, it's like so that just tells me that the pricing is not going to come down. But if everybody thought like we did, then this stuff would be over tomorrow morning.
Oh yeah, but more people need to know these things.
Maybe that 50-year mortgage will wake them up and make them go, "What? It's already 30." And then they start looking into mortgages and they realize where all that came from, and 50. Maybe that might snap some people out of it. But some people might look at it as a way to just drag out the damn payments.
Well,
And
no, they'll look at it like, oh, I can afford a home now because it'll drive the monthly payment. You know what I mean? But then people will sign up for that. You know, it's stupid.
$800 a month times 50 years.
Yeah,
Or
exactly.
something more affordable than they're getting now. Yeah, they'll do it.
Yep. Well, and that's where it's our job, and it goes back to what Cheating was saying in the pre-show of getting out of the matrix and exiting the matrix. It's mentoring and raising and educating the younger people to not strap themselves with more than what they can afford, and to make sure that they put stuff away for a quote unquote nest egg at some point, that they can stop working and not be strapped for 60 years of maintaining a job.
Yeah, if they
I
even
mean,
let that happen.
Yep. I mean, luckily, Bird and I are at least our three sons have figured that out before the age of 30, of to not strap themselves or their families to what they could afford if they want to stretch it out for 8 years for a car and 50 years for a home. They really have put a lot of thought into what they're doing.
Yeah, and now it's a piece of crap home and an undependable car. It sucks all around the board, man. You got to buy a used home, you got to buy a used car.
Yeah. Or like we've done with our, and I don't want to pat myself on the back, but all three of our sons are very, very hands-on. So at least if they do buy a vehicle or something else that needs work, it's not below them to do the work. They don't need to go down that path. But it's just everybody's different. But it's us trying to raise the younger generation to not strap yourself because you can.
Well, I'm going to say you deserve to pat yourself on the back. As most of us here at this show tonight should be patting ourselves on the back, because we're doing a lot of work here.
We're
living in the matrix, and it's not easy to be in the matrix when you're out of it. It's like, is there another world we can just all go?
I mean, I'm trying to figure that out, Cheating. We're gonna put our heads together on this one. I was thinking alien invasion. We can just pretend like we got abducted and disappear.
Yeah.
Right.
Can we all just John Galt ourselves?
Let's all pretend like we got abducted and just no longer be seen again. And I gotta
Take off into.
Yep. Well, when y'all figure that out, let me know because I'll be on the train with you.
I guess that'd be a big old long line on the ice shelf. We'll just stand in line over there. This is where
There
we
you
want to
go.
go.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like Truman did.
Truman had to sail off into the sunset.
Find the door.
So now I got to watch some YouTube selling videos how to sell. No, but I've been watching those selling people. They just sell wherever they want. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm just like, wow, y'all aren't being messed with out there. No,
No,
they're
that
just
guy went all the way to where?
around the
On the ski-doo.
yeah, the jet ski to the Bahamas.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the sailboats. The people that are out there hitting like
Oh yeah.
going from country to country.
Yeah.
Well, I saw a story about a guy who sailed into Inner Earth. Him and his buddy, they sailed into Inner Earth, and it was amazing.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up. My dogs are mean mugging me right now.
This is good stuff tonight. Good stuff tonight. The whole team, the whole tribe, stuff. And this is good stuff. I know we're pushing 2.5 hours, but no, this has been a great show. Appreciate all your knowledge and videos that you entertained us with and educated us with, dear Sheepdog.
I appreciate Mind Unveiled for doing all that work. So
Yeah.
go subscribe to the channel.
He's got really, really old books.
Oh yeah,
And thanks for joining me. Just kidding. Thanks for having me, sheepdogs.
thank you for
Thank
coming.
you, Judy.
But
Thank you, Nadine.
he shows a lot of pictures of stuff that he skims right over. Like if you go back and watch it again and see and go look up some of the stuff that he's showing, because he doesn't talk about some of the stuff, he just shows the pictures.
Mhm.
But it's got a lot more information in the pictures and in the books, et cetera, et cetera. So wealth of information. But that's it. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody. Thanks everybody for being here.
Yeah, have a fun night.
Good night, everyone.
Get
We
it.
spoke our truths, we healed with sound, lifted each other, sacred and proud. Gifts exchanged, hearts aligned, royal family, one of a kind. Red cardinal clan, wings in the sky. Cheap bombs trading, keeps the spirit high. Mama's love, our guiding flame. Sheepdog swap where we honor our name. Raw room rising, the vibe is alive. We are the change, we thrive and we strive. Heaven on earth, we build and we grow. Carry the ball wherever you go. Take a slide, take a song. You are the tribe belong. Speak the truth, let it bloom. You are forever growing. Thank you to all our guests, our tribe, our crew, to the viewers and listeners. This love's for you. Good night, everybody. Light, love, and truth. Knowledge in your power.